Oi! Yes! Here we go, you guys. This is the third straight night that I have been live on my channel. We did a balls deep breakdown on Sunday night for the Shavkat Carlston Harris fight. We did a balls deep breakdown last night on the Maximov Soriano fight. And now here we are, Tuesday night, 10 o'clock p.m. Central Time, doing what we always do on this channel, just the tip. With me, your host, Uncle Weezy. We're going to break down all 13 fights on this card. We've got a late replacement fight here with Brendan Allen and is taking over for Phil Hawes, who had to pull out with an injury. So he's going to now be fighting Sam Alvey. And other than that, we've got 12 other fights going on. I'm going to break them all down from a statistical perspective with you guys here. I want to see what's up to the chat before we get started here. This is going to be a marathon, you guys. We just had a week off last week. We had 2 weeks before that with UFC events, and we had a month off before that. But now it's time to strap it down and get back to work. We've got 8 straight weeks of UFC cards to hit up here. Me as a content creator who's doing shows 5 different days a week, I'm ready. I'm ready to roll, man. We've had a lot of weeks off, 6 out of the last 8 weeks off. So I'm ready to put in the work for you guys right now. And we're going to break down all these fights. Every week I'll be here with the stats for you guys, with the insights, with the jokes, with everything that I always bring for you guys. And I couldn't do it without you guys in here with me. My guy Oil Check, the first in the room, saying, let's fucking go. Oi, yes. And we got Grateful Dude saying, oi. And then we got my guy Jazz, man, JSJ23, saying, here's to the strong start to 2022 and hope it continues. Much respect for the grind you keep putting in for these breakdowns, brother. My man, I really appreciate the donation. That is very, very kind of you. Ring a ding ding. Another donation on Uncle Weezy's YouTube channel, JSJ23. Huge ups to you, brother. Much love, much appreciation coming from me, man. That means a lot. And we've got Daz Files in the room saying, oi, bookie shaving time, dude. And we're going to have to do it over and 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 over again, you guys. That's 8 overs. 8. Okay? That's how many straight weeks of UFC we got coming up here. And we got to put it all together, man. It's got to come together like butt cheeks over these next 2 months so that we can build this bankroll and really get some big things going here in 2022, you guys. So absolutely time to shave these bookies for taking our bets, man. And this was just me interacting with the chat prior to the show starting. My guy Nicholas Odd saying, let's go, Unc. We got my guy Jacques Tits in the house, a legend in abstract geometry. He invented the tits metric, the tits alternative, the tits workaround, and Tits Buildings, an absolute giant in the world of mathematics. Jacques Tits, I salute you, brother. Thanks for hanging out. Jacques Tits in the building, you guys. We got my guy Lou Betya in the room saying, Weezy, it works, dude. That's it. It works. And I know what you mean, Lou. I'm getting you loud and clear over here, 100%. You have been working hard, brother, and I appreciate everything that you're doing, man. This is the guy who is building a database for me and has been doing some amazing work so that somewhere down the road, maybe in the not too distant future, might be able to give you guys some content at an extremely low price that'll be extremely valuable for you guys. Really looking forward to unveiling that for you guys when it's ready to go. We've been working hard behind the scenes for you guys. Can't wait to show you what's up. Use that as inspiration, my man, he says, and I will. I am already, though, inspired, man, on Tuesday night, as I always am. I got a Paloma here. I've been working hard all day. I've been working hard all week, actually, and I just feel like I deserve this beverage. And I would encourage you guys that while we strap it down for the next 2 hours here and break down all 13 of these fights, go get yourself a lovely beverage, something that you can enjoy for the next couple of hours while we take you through all these stats. And we got my guy Monk Maddox in the room, the Monk Matician, saying, "What up, Weezy? What up, chat? Good to see you in here, brother." If you guys haven't subscribed yet to Monk's channel, make sure you get over there and do that. He does some amazing things with MMA statistics that are even beyond what I'm doing here. The guy does amazing work. He works super hard, and the DraftKings material that this guy is putting out is pure gold. So please get in there, watch it. Thanks for hanging out, Monk. Much love, brother. We got Mark Schillingberg saying, just got done watching Izzy versus Whitaker 1 again. I just don't see one hole in Izzy. I think 2 ends with about the same outcome, but that's next month. Let's rip into this week's card, Weezy. Let's go. Let's go, Mark. Let's do it. We're going to get to these fights here shortly, man. And I'm looking forward to Izzy versus Whitaker, too. Whitaker has earned that rematch, and I can't wait to see what he has in store for Izzy this time. And Monk saying, low. And we got David Dennett saying, big oi to the tip. Let's talk some fights. Let's go, man. We got Papa in the room saying, uncle. We got Dom209 saying, oi. We got Sergio's a Butte saying, aye, let's get it. And Papa saying it's time to whip it out and smack the bookies with it. You got that right, man. And we got F. Carrillo saying, hola, Uncle Weezy. Much love to the myth, the man, the legend. And the myth, the man, the legend is not me, you guys. It's Mr. F. Carrillo here, who has been supporting everything that me, DFS by the numbers, have been doing. And he's been supporting a bunch of other content creators on YouTube, my man. It is so much appreciated, the donation. Ring a ding, ding. I appreciate you, man. Thank you. Much love and huge ups from your Uncle Weezy, brother. That means so much to me. My God, this is awesome. And Sergio's a Butte saying, Lambos, baby. Let's find some nice fat lines this week. Papa. And what is Phil Hawes' future? That's a good question, man. You know, I mean, he's going to be around this promotion. He's an exciting fighter. He's a killer be killed fighter. You know, I think that he's going to have some more fights here. You know, he got injured, you guys. These guys are mixed martial artists. They're cutting a ton of weight. They're training hard. They're in cages battling with other grown men, hitting them in the face, kicking them in the legs, putting them in submission holds. You know, these guys get hurt. It happens, man. I think he's going to be around for a long time, man. He's a good fighter. He's an exciting fighter to watch. The kind of guy that Dana likes to re-up contracts with. So hopefully Hawes will be around for a while, man. I've always found his fights to be super exciting. And then we got a Swoosh Plays Game saying, time for the ass shaving of the week and the greasy four-legger. Let's cash some tickets, Uncle Weezy. Let's do it, Swoosh. Let's do it. And there's Papa again, man. We got my guy Paul Brassfield saying, oi, Unc, what's up? It's alive. And then Tresean Gore, top 15 middleweight by 2023. Bryan battle, pumping gas. End of 2023. Mr. X with the bold predictions on the Tresean Gore Bryan battle fight. And there's a lot of hype on this Gore. He's only got 3 professional fights, but man, oh man, are people on the Tresean Gore train. And this guy is very exciting to watch. He's huge. He is a huge, huge man, and he hits super hard. A little bit low volume. Seen a little bit on the grappling from the grappling on him on the regional scene as well. So he seems to be pretty well rounded. But I've liked what I've seen out of Bryan battle so far as well. Although that first round against Gilbert Urbina in the final was a little bit rough, man. He got taken down pretty easily. But, you know, it's going to be a great fight, man. Can't wait to talk about it. And we've got the Cuban assassin saying, Weezy, let's go. When is Megan O'Leary dumping Joe Benavidez and starting to date a real man like Keith Peterson? Who knows, man? I'll tell you, Joe Benavidez is a lucky man because Megan O'Leary is a beautiful woman. But, you know, you got to imagine that somebody like Keith Peterson, right? You know, he's got to be getting some ass, doesn't he? Like a lot of ass? I would think he would be, actually. You know, I mean, he's got the neck tattoos. He's got that raspy voice. I think he sings in a punk band. And I'll bet you they're fucking good, man. I would love to party with Keith Peterson personally, man. I know that we always joke, Brady and I, about him being drunk and shit, but I mean, I don't even think the guy drinks. But the fact that Dominic Cruz said that he smelled like alcohol and cigarettes when he stopped the fight, it was just so priceless, man. You can't really let something like that go, man. But you know, I'm sure Keith Peterson is doing real well with the ladies. You know, the no-nonsense Keith Peterson probably is no nonsense in the sack, just absolutely tapping ass and taking names out there. God bless Keith Peterson. Keep doing your thing, brother. F. Carrillo saying, smash the like, folks. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. B saying, dropping a like and an oi. Let's make money, Weezy Nation. Thanks, B. Appreciate that, man. Sean Cundy in the room saying, what up, Weezy? Love the content, brother. Keep it up, man. Thanks for hanging out, Sean. Much appreciated, man. I haven't seen you in here before. Welcome. Can't wait to break down the fights with you. And Monk is giving me the fist there. Appreciate it. My guy Jarno, all the way over from Finland, saying, Weezy, let's do this. Let's do it, Jarno. Let's go. F, I appreciate you, brother, so much, man. Hype MMA saying, oi. And we go, oh, my God, B, hooking me up with $1. Another donation ring, a ding, ding, ding. B, much love, brother. Much, much love. Thank you so much, man, for supporting the channel. It's beautiful. Hype MMA saying so many live dogs, so those prop spots will be beautiful. I couldn't agree more, man. The thing about the favorites this week is if you just kind of like go back a couple of weeks, or I mean, a couple of fights, and then you tell somebody back then, like, hey, guess who's going to be a minus 350 favorite in like a year? Julian Erosa. You know, and you'd be like, oh, fuck you, too. Julian Erosa isn't going to be minus 350 against anybody. Well, here we are. It's 2022 and some crazy shit is happening. And Julian Erosa is now minus 350. And yeah, it's crazy, man. So there are some spots that should be sticking out this week where we can maybe sprinkle a bunch of props, not have too much exposure. But if we hit on a couple of them, we can have an up week. And I'm going to try to pick out those spots because if I'm being honest with you guys, I'm not seeing a lot that's sticking out this week. Blood Money MMA bet saying, Weezy, what's up? What's up, Blood Money? Good to see you in here, brother. Nandalal Rosaya saying he looks like the kind of short dude who only swoops taller women. Wouldn't that be funny? Sergio saying he's banging all the ring girls while smoking a pack of cigarettes. I think he might be, man. I think he might be, dude. You know, you just never know what goes on backstage at a UFC event, man. I mean, it would be cool to party with Keith Peterson and they're like, you know, I just got a feeling that dude is getting it, man. He's doing well for himself. K. Robbie saying, looking fresh, Uncle Weezy. Yeah, man, I got my Bruce Lee t-shirt on here. He's DJing, even though he was not known for his DJing, but I was known for my DJing. So I love Bruce Lee and I love DJing. So, you know, it works, man. Thanks for hanging out, Robbie. Appreciate it. Justin Villiga is saying, so we're betting him because he gets a lot of booty. You never know, man. That's a good reason to bet somebody. Blood Money saying, I put 0.45 units on Maximov, Weezy. You talked me into it. Yeah, man. He better wrestle, and he better wrestle for his life. And if he sticks to that for the full 5 minutes of the first round, I believe he might tire out Puna, and Puna might not have much left for the last couple of rounds. We've just never seen anybody grapple Puna yet, and I think Nick is going to absolutely do it. F. Carrillo saying, I wish betting was legal in Texas. Tired of DraftKings. Man, it's not legal in Texas yet? Wow, I'm really pretty surprised about that, but you got to imagine it's going to be legal there soon. You know, this is a snowball rolling downhill. There are so many places now that are making a ton of money. You know, I mean, most of these governments are broke. They're just looking for something else to tax, and why not gambling? So hopefully you'll get some legalized gambling down there soon, man, because that's unfortunate. They treat us like kids, man. We're adults. Kenneth Wall saying, finally getting to be with her live. Good stuff, Unc. Appreciate you for hanging out, Kenneth. Thank you, man. Metalinga saying, oi. And we got B saying, you're building it. They're coming. Keep on keeping on. Thank you, B. I appreciate that, man. And DFS by the numbers saying, can't wait to see you shave some ass. Yes, sir. And Justin saying, amen. Cali don't either. Yeah, that's crazy, man. This is stupid. You know, we're a bunch of grown men and women. If we want to put $50 on a fight, why are we even like, why can somebody even say that we can't? That's just absolutely ridiculous. And then one day they will say, oh, you know what? You can. And now you're just going to give us a bunch of money for the privilege of doing it. You know, I mean, one of these days we're going to realize that we don't need governments, that we can run our own lives because we're adults. And look at this, my God. Nandalal Razayas giving me $20. Let's get Texas in this game. Spread the spread. Let's spread it all. Let's spread it like butter all over the United States. This is the land of the free and the home of the brave. Let's all be able to gamble legally. Come on. Is this too much to ask? I think not. And it's not too much to ask for another one of my supporters to support the show. My God, I am absolutely humbled by the support I'm getting from you guys today. It means so much. Wow. I can't wait to get into it with you guys here. You've humbled me. You've given me even more fire, and I need that fire because we're going to be doing this for 8 straight weeks. But you guys, and Blood Money saying, yup, I'm in Kentucky and got to drive to a casino in Indiana. That's bullshit. F. Carrillo saying, Nando out. Thank you, guys. Thank you all so much for supporting the show. But it's time for me to get to work, you guys. It's time for Smooth Jimmy to get to work. And let's break down all 13 fights on the UFC Vegas 47 card from a statistical perspective, from nose to toes, from east to west. We're going to hit the tail of the tape, the experience, the finish stats, the striking stats, the grappling stats, the strength of schedule, and the last 5, and Weezy's reads. Let's get into it. My guy, Smooth Jimmy, is ready to go. He's got his cigar. He's got his lock of the week. He's looking absolutely impeccable. I am not looking impeccable, but guess what? I'm at least camera ready today. The hair is at least in a decent spot. So let's get to work, you guys. Here we go. We are going to start with the curtain jerker. I'm going to zoom in on these stats for you guys so you can see them nice and close here. We've got Malcolm Gordon against Dennis Bondar, and the props haven't even dropped for this fight yet, despite the fact that this fight was scheduled to happen last year and it got postponed, and now it's been scheduled to take place at this event for the last 6 weeks, and we still don't have any props on this. But Dennis Bondar, 2 years younger, an inch shorter, and I don't even know what his reach is yet because UFC Stats has not posted that information. Malcolm Gordon fights out of both stances, while Bondar is an orthodox fighter. Adrenaline MMA in Canada for Malcolm Gordon, and Kharkov top team for Dennis Bondar in the Ukraine. The experience number is very similar. 2 more fights for Gordon, 6 more minutes in the pro cage for Bondar. Average fight time almost identical, and it's been Gordon who's been doing this for about 2.5 years longer. It's 3 UFC level fights and 20 minutes in the UFC cage for Malcolm Gordon. Average fight time 6.81 minutes. He's been finished in both of his UFC losses, and his 1 UFC win came by decision. Malcolm Gordon is finishing 77% of his pro wins inside the distance and has been finished in 100% of his losses. His 5 losses, he's been knocked out 4 times, and he has been submitted once. Malcolm Gordon has indeed been knocked out by a hot shower, you guys. This is not a guy with a chin that you could trust. However, Dennis Bondar here, he's submitting 71% of his pro wins and knocking out 29% of them. So in 14 professional wins, Dennis Bondar has finished every single one of them. He's been submitted in one of his 2 losses. But the problem with Bondar, you guys, is the fact that he hasn't fought anybody. I'm going to show you the pro wins for Dennis Bondar, and there's not one recognizable name on here. The wins against Kenan Jafari, 18-12. Lev Ambartsumian, 5-3. Gennady Gitlin, 2-2. Kiwin Jacques, who is 19 years old at the time of that fight, 7-1. Sergey Kupin, 0-2. Gennady Gitlin again, 2-1. Igor Goncharov, 4-3. Ivan Andrushenko, 12-10. Oleg Plotnik, 3-3. Lev Ambartsumian again, 3-1. Alexander Lunga, he lost to, 23-9. Lost to Jifa Chang, 10-5. Ramin Islamov, Vyacheslav Sidorov, Constant. You get the idea, you guys. He's lost 2 fights to Alexander Lunga. He's lost once to Shang, but he does not have any wins that are UFC level yet. So this is a hard fight to handicap. But when we talk about what we've seen on tape from both of these guys, Malcolm Gordon pretty good all around. You know, he's got some knockouts, he's got some submissions. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt. And, you know, he likes to mix it up. But his fights are absolutely finishing inside the distance. I would say 9 plus 5, 14 out of 18 times. So it's almost 80% of the time that his fights are finishing inside the distance. And for Bondar, it's 15 of 16 fights finishing inside the distance. So even though flyweight fights finish only about 43% of the time, the curtain jerker fights, they definitely finish much more often than that. And this is a UFC debut for Bondar. Malcolm Gordon is not what anybody would call durable. He absolutely hates getting hit. And Bondar is really good on the feet. He's really good on the ground as well. I think this is going to be a match where you want to stay away from the props because both of these guys are pretty well-rounded and they both have a couple of different ways to win. And even Gordon, I mean, I could still even see this fight going to decision because when Gordon wins minutes on top, he can absolutely stall there. We see that Gordon has spent about 63% of his UFC cage time in 3 fights in control time positions. He has 0% takedown defense. So if Bondar wants to take him down, he probably can. Bondar's takedown defense looked pretty good on the regional scene, but like we said, he's not facing great competition. Malcolm Gordon getting knocked down on 2% of the significant strikes that he absorbs. That's a very high rate in that division. And he's actually fighting guys with winning records, but very inexperienced fighters. The win against Francisco Figueiredo, the losses to Amir Albazi and Suma Derji. So, this is a fight that I'm really not interested in who's going to win the fight. Dennis Bondar is a big favorite, but I would not lay that kind of juice on somebody right now that is minus 255, making his UFC debut, and Malcolm Gordon is by far the best fighter that he's ever faced. So it's hard to know how he's going to handle the step up in competition, how he's going to handle the bright lights of the UFC cage. And minus 255 for me is just too much to pay here. However, I would feel stupid betting on Malcolm Gordon and watching him get starched by the first punch that's landed against him. And it wouldn't be the first time that's happened to him. So you don't want to bet on chinny guys like Gordon, and he is certainly chinny and easy to finish. I mean, like when you see a guy with 5 professional losses and all 5 are inside the distance, it leads you to believe they might either be a quitter or they might just absolutely hate being hit. Maybe fighting isn't for them. So I can't bet minus 255 on Bondar. I can't bet plus 215 on Gordon. But when we do get props on this fight, you guys, fight doesn't go to decision. For Bondar, 15 of his 16 professional fights have finished inside the distance. And for Gordon, it is 14 of 18. So 14 plus 15 is 29. 29 of 34 fights, you guys, have finished inside the distance. It's about an 85% finish rate. An 85% finish rate is like minus 500 if you convert it to an implied probability. So the bet for this fight is going to be fight doesn't go to decision. However, we don't have props for that yet. So yeah, I cannot endorse any other bets on this fight. However, I will be picking Dennis Bondar because I believe with Malcolm Gordon's bad takedown defense, it'll be easy for Bondar to win minutes on top if he doesn't like how it's going on the feet. So the pick's Bondar, but the bet will be fight doesn't go to decision. Next up, UFC stats just changed the bout order, you guys. I am going by what I see on UFC stats. They're showing the Gordon-Bondar fight as the curtain jerker, and then next we're going to Witt-Rowe. So here we go. Jason Witt against Phil Rowe. Phil Rowe has some really sweet tail of the tape advantages here, you guys. He is 4 years younger because Jason Witt's 35. He's 4 inches taller, and he has a whopping 10-inch reach advantage. Both of these guys are orthodox fighters. Phil Rowe fighting out of Fusion Excel in Southern California, while Jason Witt being trained by James Krause over there at the Glory MMA gym. Both of these guys fighting out of the United States. It's Jason Witt with a 15-fight experience advantage as a pro. He's got 120 more minutes of pro cage time compared to Phil Rowe, and he's been doing this about a year and a half longer. So Jason Witt in 9 years as a pro is fighting about 3 times a year, while Phil Rowe in about 7.5 years has only had 11 fights. So Jason Witt not only has an experience advantage here, but he also has an activity advantage in that he's been fighting 3 times a year, while Phil Rowe's been fighting about half that. At the UFC level, it's similar. 4 fights for Witt, 3 for Rowe, about 10 more minutes in the UFC cage for Phil Rowe, and average fight time is about double for Phil Rowe. Jason Witt has definitely been a killer be killed type of fighter. Witt as a pro is finishing fights at a 58% rate. Phil Rowe finishing fights at a 100% rate. Jason Witt is being finished at a 100% rate, and Phil Rowe is being finished at a 33% rate. So instead of playing time props on this fight, what it looks like to me is it's either going to be Jason Witt by decision or Phil Rowe inside the distance. I mean, Phil Rowe has 8 wins, 100% of them are finishes. Jason Witt has 7 losses, 7. 100% of them are finishes. So it seems kind of stupid not to try to at least take a shot on Rowe inside the distance if you're on the Rowe side here. Are we on the Rowe side? Let's look at the striking and grappling stats, guys. So we've got Jason Witt landing 2.63 significant strikes per minute and absorbing 3.1. So that's a negative significant strike differential per minute. He's got 50% striking accuracy. He's landing a knockdown on 1.64% of the total significant strikes that he lands, which is very high, 0.65 knockdowns per 15 minutes. The problem with Witt is the 50% striking defense is just too low. And then the chinniness, you guys. 2.78% of the significant strikes that Jason Witt has absorbed have resulted in a knockdown. That means he's been knocked down twice in 72 significant strikes landed. That is just way too much. And he is absorbing 1.29 knockdowns per 15 minutes. Now, Rowe is landing more significant strikes than he absorbed, lands 4.97, absorbs 4.54. He's got a 56% striking accuracy, almost 57. He's landing a knockdown on 1.16% of the significant strikes that he lands. That's averaging out to 0.87 knockdown per 15 minutes. But guess what? He's almost been as chinny as Jason Witt here, as he's been knocked down on 1.91% of the significant strikes that he's absorbed. And he's absorbing 1.3 knockdowns per 15 minutes. And for Witt, it's 1.29. So while everybody's been talking about how chinny Jason Witt is, turns out Phil Rowe's pretty chinny too. Also, got to address the elephant in the room. My man DFS by the numbers dropped this on me. Evidently, Dan from Best Fight Picks had mentioned that he was supposed to do an interview with Phil Rowe tonight. And then he put out on Twitter that Phil was unable to do the show tonight. Evidently, he's dealing with some weight cut issues, according to Dan Levy. So this is a problem right now. Phil Rowe is absolutely huge for a welterweight, 6'3", 80-inch reach. So he does cut a lot of weight to make 170, you guys. And he missed weight by 2.5 pounds last time out, weighed in at 173.5 for his last fight. So he was on weight the last fights before that, the last 2 UFC fights before that, but he might be having a tough weight cut here. We're going to have to keep an eye out for Phil Rowe on the scales. The grappling numbers. We know that Jason Witt loves to shoot takedowns, 22 takedown attempts in 4 fights, and he's gotten 10 of them. It's a really high percentage. That's really efficient wrestling. 45.45% takedown accuracy, 6.46 takedowns per 15 minutes, 1.29 submission attempts per 15 minutes. And look at this, you guys. 51.47% control time for and 4.31% control time allowed. 100% takedown defense on only 1 takedown attempt against. Jason Witt's been very good in the grappling exchanges here, and he's used his wrestling to win a ton of minutes on the ground. And it's a very smart strategy for him to take, because when we look up here at the 2.78% knockdowns per total significant strikes absorbed, every minute that he's on the feet is a liability. I think that Jason Witt, in order to be successful in this fight, you guys, he's going to have to get takedowns early and often and accrue a ton of control time over Phil Rowe. The problem with that is when we look at Phil Rowe here, Phil Rowe's a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he's training over at Fusion Excel. And those Fusion Excel boys, I mean, that's Jacare Souza and Rodolfo Vieira. So if you think that he's scared of having Jason Witt on top of him when he's dealing with guys like Jacare and Rodolfo daily in the gym, I get the feeling that he's going to do just fine on the ground with Jason Witt. Not only that, from what I've seen on tape in the UFC, he's handling himself very well on the ground and is very dangerous with submissions off his back because he's got such long limbs and he can do things that other guys simply can't do. And so we see Jason Witt here, the Vanilla Gorilla, but he's fighting Philip Rowe. And I just thought I wanted to bring this up. Gordon Ryan. He got submitted by Gordon Ryan in a custom rules bout, 15-minute round, but he was swimming on the ground okay for a while with Gordon Ryan, one of the elite grapplers, in the world right now, Gordon Ryan. And it's not like some guys came into Phil Rowe's house and put a sack over his head and threw him in the trunk and then made him go out there and fight Gordon Ryan. I mean, that was on purpose. He signed up for that. He wanted that. Phil Rowe, his grappling is underrated, you guys. I'm worried for Jason Witt in this spot. For a guy that is as chinny as Jason Witt, for as easy as he is to finish, Phil Rowe, in my opinion, probably just needs to win maybe 10, 15 seconds of this fight in order to finish it. He's very dangerous. He hits very hard, and he's got a 10-inch reach advantage on the feet. And I think when Jason goes to take him down, he's going to be defending submissions and potentially getting swept here. So in this fight, let's quickly look here at the strength of schedule numbers that I have for you guys. So a 1.11 overall ratio for Witt and a 1 ratio here. Total fights, Rowe is fighting much less experienced competition, so it's obviously Witt who has the strength of schedule advantage here. He has beaten Cole Williams, one of the worst welterweights to ever be in the UFC, in my opinion, and he's got that majority decision win over Bryan Barberena. If you guys haven't seen that fight, my God, you got to check that out. What a baller fight that was. He got knocked out by Matt Semmelsberger in the first round, and he got knocked out by Takashi Sato in the first round. Phil Rowe's got wins over Ryan Cosi in the UFC and Leon Shabazian. He's got a loss to Gabe Green. But, Phil Rowe tends to give up first rounds, too. He does start a little bit slow. So the way I'm looking at this one is I think that Jason Witt by decision is a good bet. And I think Phil Rowe inside the distance is a good bet. It just depends on which fighter you like. As long as Phil Rowe doesn't have a disastrous weight cut, I'm going to be picking Phil Rowe here to win inside the distance. I'm thinking second or third round knockout or even a submission. But I think that Rowe is just way too dangerous for Jason Witt. And every time he's faced somebody that is dangerous, like Sato, Semmelsberger, who's got a lot of power as well, you just see that he's a liability on the feet here. So the pick, you guys, is going to be Phil Rowe inside the distance. And, another guy who's out here shaving ass is my guy, Andy MG. Ring a ding, ding, ding. Another donation for Uncle Weezy's channel on Just the Tip, man. You guys are absolutely making me blush today. I don't even know. I feel like the prettiest girl at the dance, okay? You guys are just taking care of your Uncle Weezy today. I much love and appreciation from me for that, Andy MG. And then he says, salute Uncle Weezy. We're shaving ass this weekend. You're damn right we are, buddy. We're going to shave ass just like I think Phil Rowe might. It's a tough matchup, man. He's not going to be the ass shaving of the week. I'm really worried how he's going to look on the scale. The pick, you guys, is going to be Phil Rowe inside the distance. We got Sergio saying if Rowe don't put him out, I see a 3-round sub by Witt. Yeah, that could be. Ahmed J saying good to see you, Wizzy. Good to see you, Ahmed. We got my guy Chris saying let's go, Uncle Weezy. Great show tonight. Appreciate you, Chris. Let's step into the next fight here. Wow, Jailton Almeida against Danilo Marques, you guys. A couple of grapplers here. Grappler versus grappler. Danilo Marques, 36 years old. Jailton is 30. Danilo Marques, 3 inches taller, but it's going to be Almeida with a 2-inch reach advantage. An orthodox stance here. LG system for Jailton. Vila de Luta for Marques. Marques trains with Damian Maia. And both of these guys are Brazilians. The experience numbers are similar. It's Jailton who has 2 more professional fights, but it's Marques who has about 40 more minutes in the cage. Average fight time, look at that for Jailton Almeida, 4.47 minutes. and that's in 16 professional fights. For Marques, it's 8.43, and we got about a year and a half more as a pro for Jailton. Neither one of these guys has been very active. They're both less than 2 fights a year. Marques has 2 more fights at the UFC level and about 30 more minutes of UFC cage time. If we look at how these guys are finishing fights, Jailton, 100% of the time he's finishing. And we got Danilo Marques with a 81% finish rate. And think about that, you guys. In the first 3 fights that we've talked about, Dennis Bondar, 100% finish rate. Phil Rowe, 100% finish rate. And now here we come with Jailton Almeida, 100% finish rate. Have you guys seen this Jailton Almeida dude? He looks like a comic book character. He looks like he was carved out of a slab of marble. He is a huge favorite here. He compared his style to Khabib when he fought Nasruddinov on the Contender Series. Now, this guy Nasruddinov came in a big favorite in that fight, and we can see why here. Nasruddin is definitely undersized for the division, but look at these fights. He's fighting Corey Hendricks, Engin Bardiev, 11-2 in ACA, Corey Hendricks, 6-2 ACA, Jorge Gonzalez, 15-3 ACA, Said Tauziev, 5-0 ACA. This guy's winning bouts in ACA. You know, I mean, like, you add up the records of the guys that Nasruddinov had beaten. They were 17, 27, 32, 37-7. And these are ACA guys. So he was a big favorite coming in here against Almeida. But Almeida was much bigger than him, and he beat Nasruddinov at his own game. This guy is just absolutely huge. I have no idea how he makes 205 pounds, but he has a terrifying style. There's not a lot of tape out here on this guy, but, you know, we can just kind of go through his record here and find out what he's about. Knockout 115 round 2. He loses in 16 seconds to Thiago Moreira. A win over Nascimento, 4-16 round 1, rear naked. Lost to Bruno Assis, unanimous decision. Round 1 knockout. Round 1 sub. Round 1 knockout. Round 1 knockout. Round 2 sub. Round 1 knockout. Round 1 sub. Round 1 sub. Round 1 sub. And then he beat Kyle Barriault in a grappling match. Hoffman in a grappling match. Diaz in a grappling match. And then he beats Nasruddinov as a big underdog on the Contender Series. And now he's stepping up to a much bigger grappler here in Danilo Marques. Marques has thrived as an underdog in the UFC, winning his first 2 bouts. But they were against Mike Rodriguez and Hadisi Ibragimov. And then before that, we don't see much out of Mr. Marques. There's really not a lot of names here. And this was kind of like, well, even when Marques got brought into the UFC, you guys, it was a bit of a head scratcher, right? Because you see the Ibragimov win here, right, in September of 2020. But before that, he hadn't fought in 2.5 years. And his win was over a guy that was 5-4. Then his win before that was against an 0-16 Mark Palomino. He lost to the only legitimate competition he's ever faced, Myron Dennis. And then this guy, this fat guy, Marcio Tellez, knocks him out in the round 1. And when you watch this guy Tellez fight, you're like, oh boy, that is a bad loss. Look, Jailton is good at what Danilo is good at. I think if Jailton wants to keep this standing and knock out Danilo Marques, he absolutely can. We saw Marques just flat out quit in the 3rd against Kennedy and Chekwu, knowing that Kennedy was fresh and he wasn't. He knew he wasn't being able to get that takedown against Kennedy, and he just gave up. I think that Jailton's going to take down Danilo. I think he's going to wear on him. You know, when you get this guy on top of you, it's a serious, serious problem. But he is a submission over position grappler, you guys. He can get, and I'm talking about Jailton Almeida here, he can get a little bit sloppy on the ground. So it is an awful lot to ask to lay that kind of juice on a guy making his UFC debut. And in this case, he is minus 400 here against Danilo Marques. The under 1.5 rounds is minus 115. As a matter of fact, I don't think Jailton in a win has ever been over actually, yes, the Junior Lourenço fight was the one that went the long, or no, this is Jailton here. And Jailton, I think he's never been past the 1.5 round mark in a win. We see the round 2 finishes here, 151. Yeah, he's never even been past the halfway point of round 2. So I think the way to play this, if you're on the Almeida side, is to bet him inside the distance. He can be knocked out, Ken Marques. And I think the jiu-jitsu will actually be kind of close. But this guy, Jailton, is just incredibly strong. I think he might be able to muscle out of some of the things that Danilo tries to do on the ground. And I think once he gets on top, man, the ground and pound is absolutely savage. And, you can't take that ground and pound for too long without lifting up your chin and just saying, choke me out, buddy. I'm ready to tap. So that's what I think is going to happen here. I think we're going to see Jailton Almeida finish Danilo Marques in the very first round with submission or with ground and pound. And then for this one here, you guys, Vegas has to have a line on every fight. We don't have to bet every fight. And this is one that I will not be betting. Alexis Davis versus Julija Stoliarenko. Stoliarenko, 9 years younger than Alexis, 1 inch taller. Alexis Davis has a 2-inch reach advantage. Alexis has a huge experience advantage here, you guys. She's one of the pioneers of women's mixed martial arts. 210 more minutes of pro cage time, almost 5 more years as a pro, 15 more pro fights, 10 more UFC level fights, and over 100 more minutes in the UFC cage. Alexis Davis is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, as is Julija Stoliarenko. Julija Stoliarenko, when she was coming into the Ultimate Fighter house, was known as the Lithuanian Ronda Rousey because she wins all of her fights by armbar. When we see that Stoliarenko's got 9 pro wins, 8 of them are by submission inside the distance, 89%. And I believe 7 of those 8 submission wins are all by armbar. She's very slick. She will drop and she'll play guard. She'll do flying arm bars, anything to get that arm and try to break it off. That's what Julija tries to do. If she can't get that on you, she is absolutely lost. There's just not much to her game here. We just saw Alexis Davis go 3 rounds, hard rounds with Pani Kianzad. She lost the unanimous decision, but it didn't look like that to me. We see the level of competition that she's fighting here. Mazo, Araujo, Jennifer Maia, Caitlin Chukagian. So she's lost 4 of her last 5, but these are close fights with veterans that are way better than Stoliarenko. When we look at the strength of schedule here, it's 1.15 ratio for Davis, a 1 ratio for Stoliarenko. So Davis is fighting twice as experienced competition, but she's generally beating women with losing records, 2.71 wins, 2.86 losses, less than 1 ratio. And she's losing to people to ladies with winning records in a 1.33 ratio. So, I don't want to go into this too much, you guys. There's not a whole lot here. Julija Stoliarenko, though, what is interesting is she's lousy on her takedowns, right? 1 of 8, 12.5%. And she's only amassed 8.84% control time, despite the fact that she likes to grapple and be on top and work for submissions. And she's been controlled 44.57% of the time, but I don't think she minds being controlled on the mat because it means she can go for arm bars. Anyway, Davis has really bad takedown defense, you guys, only 27%. So while Davis has been mostly standing lately, and when she goes for takedowns, she's usually pretty good at getting them. She just never goes for them. She attempts less than 2 takedowns per fight, and she gets less than 1 takedown per fight. She's averaging 0.99 takedowns per 15 minutes. So she's not somebody that can be counted on to grapple. But Julija can be counted on to grapple. I think that this is going to become a grappling match. It might be a little bit closer than what the bookies think, but Alexis has been around. She should be ready for what Julija has to bring. And I think Alexis Davis is going to win this fight by submission, you guys. This is an interesting one here. We got Miles Johns going up against John Castaneda. It's going to be Johns, who's 3 years younger, has an inch of height, and John Castaneda is going to have a 5-inch reach advantage. And he is a switch stance fighter, so that's a nice little advantage there over the orthodox fighter in Miles Johns. Castaneda fighting out of the academy in the U.S., Miles Johns out of Fortis MMA. It's Castaneda with the experience advantage. 10 more professional fights in about 80 more minutes in the pro cage and about 2 more years as a pro. But it's Miles Johns who has more UFC level experience with 5 UFC fights to Castaneda's 3, about 15 more minutes in the UFC cage. All of Castaneda's 3 fights have went to decision, while for Miles Johns, he's 4-1, and he's finished 2 of his 4 wins inside the distance, and he's been finished in his only loss in the UFC. And he's only lost in the UFC once, and that's his only loss on his pro record. So Miles Johns is 12-1, Castaneda 18-5. So Castaneda has lost 5 professional fights. He's only been knocked out once, though. So this dude is very, very durable. While Miles Johns has been finished in his only loss. When we look at the striking stats for these guys, and we have a decent sample size for both, Miles Johns very impressive here. Landing 4 significant strikes a minute, only absorbing 2.5, 53% striking accuracy. He's landing a knockdown on 1.22% of the significant strikes that he lands, 0.74 knockdowns for 15 minutes, showing 72% striking defense. Very impressive. His opponents are throwing 9 significant strike attempts per minute and only landing 2.5. So definitely Johns is showing some really nice defense on the feet, but he has been knocked down once in 152 significant strikes absorbed in 5 fights. Castaneda is absorbing more significant strikes than he lands. He lands 3.22, absorbs 3.91, throws a lot less volume than his opponents do as well. Decent power here at 0.7% knockdowns for total significant strikes landed, about a third of a knockdown per 15 minutes, and not great striking defense here at 55.56%. You know, I like what I see from both of these guys on the feet, but I like Miles Johns' power. The power that he shows with that step-in jab of his, the left hook to the body, the overhand right. That left hook to the body, overhand right combination is what he knocked out Anderson Dos Santos with, and it was absolutely beautiful. The thing about Johns is I don't really even feel like he has to win minutes in order to win rounds, because he has that pop to land that one big shot that the judges remember. And he really can lean back on his wrestling as well. We see that he's gotten 4 takedowns in 5 fights in 13 attempts. He's gotten 9.73% control time and given up 14% control time, but he's shown 92% takedown defense, while Castaneda has only showed 60% takedown defense. So Johns has a better takedown percentage than Castaneda. He's attempted more takedowns per fight, well, about 2.6 per fight, and Castaneda about 2. So the exact same amount of takedowns per fight attempted for both of these guys. But Castaneda really has not shown the ability to get control time yet in the UFC. Less than 1% control time for, 2.26% control time against. But those numbers are off because one of them was a Contender Series fight, and we missed some of the data there because they don't give control time stats for Contender Series fights for the first, I think, 2 or 3 seasons. So we've got a little bit of incomplete information there. But, you know, Miles Johns, both of these guys have wrestling backgrounds, and both of these guys are really good boxers. I just think that Johns is the more likely one to land the big strikes. Castaneda is fighting the tougher competition, though, you guys, in the UFC. But neither one of these guys are fighting killers. They're both fighting guys on the aggregate that have losing records, but Castaneda is fighting the more experienced competition. We look at the last 5 here for Johns: Richie Santiago, Cole Smith, Mario Batista, Natividad, and Dos Santos, while for Castaneda it's Wineland, Wood, Rowe, Alvey, and Levi Saul Marroquin on the regional scene. So a very interesting fight. Right now, let me get the best fight odds page up here. We'll see where the odds are on this one. I think it's a close fight. What happened to all the odds? Why does best fight odds only have odds for 6 fights for the UFC? Oh, there's the other 6. Okay, so we've got Miles Johns sitting at minus 195 right now on Bet Online. That's the best line that you can find him. Fight doesn't go to decision is plus money. Yeah, nothing is really sticking out here. Johns by knockout plus 300. Castaneda by submission plus 1,200. You guys, the pick here is going to be Miles Johns. I think Miles Johns is going to win this by decision. Let's see what Johns by decision is. Yeah, plus 125. The bookies are all over it. I think that would be the best way to play it because even though Johns is very powerful, he can win a lot of minutes wrestling. And Castaneda's only been finished in 1 out of 5 pro losses, and that's in like 26 professional fights. So I think Johns by decision is the most likely outcome. I'd like to get better than plus 125 or plus 130 on it. But yeah, that's going to be the pick, you guys, is Miles Johns by decision. And we talked about this briefly at the opener here, man. I mean, my God, Julian Erosa is a minus 350 favorite. Is that still right? No, it's down to about minus 300 now. But I think earlier in the week, he was getting even closer to that 350. No, the money's still coming in on Erosa. Minus 300. Let's look at the stats, you guys. Julian Erosa is 1 year older, 3 inches taller, and he's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage. He's a southpaw. Steven Peterson's an orthodox fighter. Julian Erosa out of Yakima. Steven Peterson, another one of the Fortis guys that's going to be fighting today. Both of these guys very experienced, but it's Erosa with the experience advantage overall and in the UFC. And if we look at the finish numbers for these guys, both of these guys pretty good finishers. 88% finish rate in 26 professional wins for Erosa. That's 23 wins inside the distance for Julian Erosa. 12 by submission, 11 by knockout. Very impressive finisher is Erosa. While for Peterson, it's 78% of his 19 wins. So that would be 18, I think that, oh boy. It'd be 13 wins. 13 wins, probably 8 by submission and 5 by knockout for Steven Peterson. And Steven Peterson's only been finished once in 9 losses, while Julian Erosa has been finished in 56% of his 9 losses. So add up the 18 losses for these guys. Only 6 of them have come inside the distance. Well, just this thing should be plus money for fight doesn't go just on that particular stat if we're looking at the implied probability there. Julian Erosa is absorbing more strikes than he lands, as is Steven Peterson. He lands 5.55, absorbs 5.9, 47% striking accuracy, decent power for both of these guys, a little more knockdown power for Julian Erosa. Erosa's been a lot more chinny, though. Steven Peterson definitely known for his durability and toughness. So if there's one guy that's likely to finish here, it's probably Peterson. And if I'm betting Erosa, despite the fact that he's been really good at finishing fights, Steven Peterson has been really good at not getting finished. So, yeah, this is going to be very interesting here. I see why people are on Erosa, but he really hasn't fought that much better a competition here. Let's look, though. It's more experienced competition for Peterson, but a better win-loss ratio for the guys that Erosa's facing. And the ratio of the wins is better for Erosa, and the loss is a little bit better for Peterson. So it's similar competition. Both of these guys have similar striking numbers. It's just Peterson's less accurate than Erosa is, and Erosa's a little bit more hittable than Peterson is. On the grappling stats, we do see Peterson's a lot more committed to grappling here with 39 takedown attempts to Julian Erosa's 16. But we see that Steven Peterson has not been as efficient getting the takedowns as Erosa has. However, Erosa has not been good at defending takedowns, only 59 or 58% takedown defense, and he's getting taken down almost 2 times for 15 minutes, and he's being controlled just under 20% of his UFC career. So it looks like Steven Peterson might be able to win some minutes wrestling here if he chooses to go that route. Erosa is dangerous with those front chokes, and he does a really good job of getting back up when he does get taken down. But Peterson does like to grapple, and we do see that about over a third of his fights take place in control time positions, and that he's out controlling his opponents at better than a 2-to-1 ratio, while Julian Erosa is getting out-controlled by his opponents at about a 1.5-to-1 ratio. I think Erosa should win this fight, and my pick is going to be Erosa by decision. But I think Steven Peterson is kind of a live dog, just the way I think Gordon could be a live dog because Bondar hasn't really fought anybody. That Witt can be a live dog because Rowe has 50% takedown defense, and Witt has been controlling his opponents 50% of the time. Marques, I'm not as much in love with him as a dog, although he has the very same skill set as Jailton. He's just older, not nearly as strong, and not nearly as hot right now because Almeida's on a more than a 5-fight winning streak. And the way that he's beating these guys is just very, very impressive. And then we got, Davis Stoliarenko. Alexis Davis has shown some really bad fight IQ in the past. She's got bad takedown defense. And when she gets hit in the face, she swells up. It looks like hamburger meat. I mean, when she just gets hit a couple of times, she bleeds like she's the long lost sister of the Diaz brothers. So, it's just, I can't lay that kind of juice on Davis. Miles Johns is like almost minus 200 here against Castaneda, and they've got very similar skill sets. And Castaneda has fought really good competition outside the UFC, just like Johns had before he got here. So I think this fight is closer than what the bookies are making it out to be. And I feel the same way about this one, you guys. I would not lay that money line on Julian Erosa here. But maybe a cheeky bet could be Erosa by decision. And let's see if that's plus money. Erosa inside the distance is like plus 170, and Erosa by decision is plus 140, plus 150. I don't know, guys. This feels like a big stay away for me, but I'm going to pick Julian Erosa to win this one by decision. And let me just see something here, because I was bitching out these guys for not putting out props, Bet Online for not putting out props on the Bondar-Gordon fight. The Bondar-Gordon fight's been on for a month, okay? They have no props on it. We got Sam Alvey versus Brendan Allen today. And there were props out on Betway and Bet365 on this fight. But Bet Online can't get props out for a fight that was announced 6 months ago for Bondar and Gordon. What are you doing? Are you scared? I'd like to smash a couple of these props that you're going to have out for that fight. So why don't you get your shit together and get it out? But yeah, okay, let's move on though, you guys. I am going to do Julian Erosa to win this fight by decision. But man, I would not bet that Erosa money line. It is way too wide. Okay, here's one that I'm largely going to be staying away from, you guys. Tresean Gore versus Bryan battle. This was supposed to take place at the Ultimate Fighter finale. Tresean Gore had to pull out with an injury, and Bryan battle wound up fighting Gilbert Urbina instead. He got the win in the second round there. And didn't look great in the first round, though. Gilbert Urbina took him down, had his back, had him in some certainly bad spots here. Tresean Gore's got a ton of hype on him, but only 3 professional fights. Coming off the injury, a long way off here. Bryan battle 4 more professional fights. I don't know what Tresean Gore's reach is. Yeah, and neither does UFC stats, despite the fact that he's had 2 exhibition fights with the UFC. Evidently, the piece of paper that they scrawled down Tresean Gore's reach on must have been thrown away by accident, and now we don't have that information. So my apologies, guys. I'd love to have Gore's reach here to know whether it was Battle or Gore that has the reach advantage, but we don't have that. Gore fights out of both stances. Bryan battle is orthodox, fighting out of Higheston MMA Charlotte, and Tresean Gore out of ATT Atlanta. It's battle with the experience advantage. Twice as much K time, twice as many pro fights. Tresean Gore's been a pro, though, for a year longer. So battle's just been a lot more active. Less than a fight a year for Tresean Gore as a pro. That's a problem. When you're not active, that's not a good thing. And he's only got 3 fights. So he absolutely, if he's going to thrive at the UFC level, he's going to have to get a lot of experience, because 3 fights is not enough to come into this organization and thrive. I mean, they really have to throw you some cans in order to be able to stick around with only 3 fights. You see guys like Malkoon coming in against Phil Hawes and getting dropped in 15 seconds. Guys like Justin Tafa got knocked out by Jorgen De Castro. I think that was his only UFC win, and he was 3-0 when he came in here. Blood Diamond, I think, is like 3-0, and he's going to be fighting in a week or so. So it's a weird fight, you guys. Bryan Battle has finished 5 of his 6 wins inside the distance, and he was submitted in his only pro loss. Tresean Gore has won once by TKO. That was a knee injury. He won once by submission, and he has won once by decision. The fight that he had against Prince Ellerby, man, he was getting his ass kicked in the 3rd round. Didn't like how he looked in that one. LJ Jones took Tresean Gore down, controlled him for the second half of round 1, and then when he got up, his leg no longer worked, and he went down. Severe leg injury. I don't know what happened to it, but that's how Gore won that fight. And then a nice submission win against Kristen Eccles with a front choke. But the tape on that fight was like taken with somebody's phone, and the thing is 90 degrees to the right, so you have to watch it with your head. There's nothing out there on Tresean Gore, so I can't be running the window to bet this guy when I have very little information on him. The fights that he had in the house, he was fighting a wrestler named Ryder Newman, and Newman, I think, shot 1 takedown attempt in 2 rounds. He looked completely lost out there. And then Gilbert Urbina, I mean, everything that Tresean Gore threw landed on Gilbert Urbina, and he's so hittable. So, you guys, I think that this line is too wide to bet Tresean Gore. Right now, he's juiced. There's a lot of money coming in on Tresean here. Let me see if I can find the line. So Tresean is minus 155 is the best line that you can find it. But you could see here, right, like the 15th, 2 weeks ago, that was sitting up around minus 125. And then a bunch of money came in, and now a bunch more money has come in on Tresean Gore. And now he's about as expensive as he's ever been right now. So if you're on that Battle side, you're getting the best price that you would have gotten on Battle so far, which is about plus 145 on BetMGM. I think it's going to be a close fight. I'm going to pick Tresean Gore to win this fight, but I just can't. I don't feel safe betting him because I don't know enough about him. I don't know how bad this knee injury or whatever the injury was that he had that kept him out for the Battle fight the first time. And I do think that Tresean, when you watch him fight, he's very low volume, but man, does he hit hard. He's very accurate. He throws all his weapons with power. So I think that he will be good on the feet, but it's just, he's going to see different paces, different styles, and I don't know how he's going to react to it. So I don't feel comfortable laying juice on Tresean Gore here. So I will pick Bryan Battle to win, but with very little confidence. Like I say, there's just not enough information on Gore for me to be confident either way. And I'm really not even going to be playing the props on this. This is one I'm going to sit back and watch. Fight doesn't go to decision, minus 140, as it should be, because middleweight fights finish more often than they don't. So that all looks like the lines are where where they should be. I think the value is probably on Battle at this point, but I'm not in love with betting a guy like Battle, who has shown that he's new to the sport as well. He's only got 7 professional fights, so it's hard to sit here and say, well, Gore only has 3 fights. Bryan Battle's been doing this less time than Tresean Gore has. It's just that he's been twice as active in the time that he's been a pro. So, yeah, the pick is going to be Bryan Battle. I'll pick him to win by decision, but very, very little confidence in that pick, you guys. Not enough stats and not enough tape for me to go off of to get a good read off of that one. Let's see here. We have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more fights to go, and we're an hour in, man. All right, so yeah, Bout Better is asking me. He needs to hear Weezy's Rottweiler, and I was just telling Bootsy before the show started. Hey, my audience is counting on you for another Jamie Pickett underdog pick, and he kind of looked at me and he said, "I'll bark when I'm ready," and I kind of thought that I kind of like a lot of the dogs this week. I think there's some value on some of these dogs, but evidently Bootsy isn't feeling that way. So, and if you want a dog, I'm not sure this is the place either, man. Sam Alvey, 35 years old, on a losing streak. I mean, on a long losing streak here. And Brendan Allen, 10 years younger. They're identical in height and reach. Alvey's a southpaw. Brendan Allen, an orthodox fighter. Brendan Allen's last fight was against a southpaw in Punahele Soriano, and he absolutely destroyed him with body kicks. Look, Sam Alvey, we know what we're getting here with Sam Alvey. We don't even need to look at all these numbers. Here's Sam Alvey. He backs up constantly. He looks terrible in the judges' eyes because he's always backing up. He backs up because his caged wrestling is good, so he can defend takedowns, not so much in the open area, but with his back against the cage. And then he backs up and he tries to land counter right hands. He tries to land that big right hook. It's his natural strong hand, but he fights southpaw so that he can keep it in front. So Sam Alvey's been fighting the same way since he came into the UFC. He's got 51 professional fights, over 500 minutes of cage time, in a professional career that's over 13 years. And he's the same fighter now than he was way back then. You know, he doesn't change anything. He waits to counter. He's extremely low volume, and he tries to land the one big shot. And if he doesn't win enough minutes to win decisions. Brendan Allen, on the other hand, really showed an improvement to his kickboxing game, and he's shown a lot of confidence in his kickboxing over the last few fights. Not necessarily all. That's not a good thing necessarily when you're fighting Sean Strickland. You're getting your ass shaved on the feet, and you don't try any takedowns. That's a bad idea. But you know, Brendan Allen is not somebody that. I mean, it looks obvious to the people who have watched the tape on Brendan Allen that his grappling is his strong point, but he doesn't seem to have any urgency to get the fights into the grappling realm. And something tells me that when Sam Alvey is has such good takedown defense that, you know, Brendan Allen's probably going to be happy to kickbox here. He's taking this fight on 5 days' notice, and I think that's very important because if he wants to push a wrestling-heavy game plan, you don't want to be taking fights on 5 days' notice. So I think Brendan Allen is going to cruise here. I think the best reason to expect that is when you look at the Punahele Soriano fight. Puna's way more powerful than Sam Alvey, and he's just a lot more dangerous than Sam Alvey. And you watch the way Brendan kind of danced around this dude and worked the body. Great body kicks, great defense. He did a fantastic job. So, you know, I think Brendan Allen's going to cruise here. I see why some people might be taking a shot on Sam. His fights are close. Brendan Allen has a 43% striking defense in the UFC, so maybe somebody thinks Sam can land that big shot. But if Puna couldn't, I don't think Sam's going to. And, yeah, the grappling numbers really don't matter. We got 81.82% takedown defense for Sam. Brendan Allen has only attempted 14 takedowns in 8 fights. Yeah, I think that this fight stays standing for the majority, you guys. And then if we look at the strength of schedule numbers here, it's Brendan Allen who's actually fought the much better win-loss ratio competition and has beaten the much better win-loss ratio competition. However, Sam Alvey's fighting the more experienced competition here. I'm going to pick Brendan Allen to win this fight by decision. I don't want to waste a lot of time on this one because it's just not a great fight. I'm excited to see Brendan Allen back. And, you know, and Smiling Sam, you know, he's had 51 professional fights, over 500 minutes of professional cage time. He's had a great career. You know, there's no shame whenever he chooses to hang it up. He's a legend. Wish him the best. And, you know, I was telling Brady on Stat Diggers this week, and the link to Stat Diggers is in the description of this video, you guys, as is the link to all the stats that we're looking at today. Download them for free. But, you know, Sam would the best angle on this fight, because Sam has had a real problem with the judges lately, is I hope he loses this fight by split decision and then hops the fence and mauls a judge. I think that would be the best way that this fight could possibly end. I've always wanted to see one of my least favorite UFC judges, and there are a few. Ron McCarthy is one of my least favorites. Sal D'Amato. Chris Lee. I'd love to see Sam jump the cage and maul those dudes. One of them, just beat him to a pulp, and then like have him get pulled off of the judge, and he's got a smiley face shaved into the back of his skull. I just think, to see one of these judges get mauled by a guy named Smiling Sam with a smiley face shaved in the back of his skull could be one of the highlights of the UFC for 20 years to come. So hopefully you guys are on the same page with me on that. And hopefully you're also picking Brendan Allen to win this fight like your Uncle Weezy is. All right. You know what? Something got screwed up here. I don't know why I've got Njokuani Barrett. So let's hear it. I was going to break down. Oh, wow. Yeah, a couple of these got put in the wrong place here. So let's go to Hakeem Dawodu versus Michael Trizano next here. I think I'm out of order, you guys. Yeah, Adelaide Bird says, Jay, yeah, I'm with you there too, brother. There's a lot of good ones. And I'm sorry, there's a lot of bad ones. There's almost too many to name. And that's really unfortunate for a storied organization like the UFC. You'd think you could get guys that aren't complete clowns in there to judge fights, but evidently that's too much to ask. All right, let's start here with Hakeem Dawodu versus Mike Trizano. Both of these guys are 30 years old. Trizano is going to be 3 inches taller, and Dawodu is going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. Dawodu fighting out of Champions Creed in Canada. And Trizano, one of these Tiger Schulman guys, one of my favorite coaches in the UFC are those Schulman guys. They're the best. I was just watching Trizano in his fight against Luis Pena. And, it's just these guys, they got that East Coast flair about them. They remind me of Sarah and Longo and those guys. And Trizano is there sitting on the stool in the second round. And his coach is there with him. He's like, look, Mike, you got to let your hands go, man. Hey. And he takes his face in his hands. He goes, if you lose, you lose. But you don't want to lose and then go and say, I didn't let my hands go. This guy's scared of you. He doesn't want to stand with you. Let your hands go. And you just see Mike just kind of nodding his head like, yeah, man, he is scared to strike with me. And then you see Trizano really go out there in the third, really turn up the gas. He starts letting those hands go, and he beats Violent Bob Ross. So Trizano's been a tough out, you guys, in the UFC thus far. This guy's been in a lot of close fights, and he really knows how to fight to his strengths. So Dawodu is going to be the more experienced guy here. 5 more professional fights, about 60 more minutes of pro cage time, and about 2 more years as a pro. And then Dawodu also has 3 more UFC level fights, about 40 more minutes in the UFC cage. And these guys' average fight time is pretty similar here. 58% career finish rate for Hakeem, all by knockout. 44% finish rate for Trizano, half of those by submission, half of those by knockout. And then Dawodu has been submitted in one of his true pro losses, and Trizano has been submitted in his only pro loss. So these guys have been finished inside the distance in 2 out of their 3 combined losses. But you could tell in 25 combined fights for these guys, there's only 3 losses between the 2 of them. Neither one of these guys has gotten used to losing at this point. So we've got decent sample sizes for both of these guys, so let's break it down. Hakeem Dawodu, you guys, look at these numbers here. 4.72 significant strikes landed per minute, only 2.39 absorbed. And that's just bizarre because you go back and you watch the tape on this guy, and his fights are close. His fights are very close, so I don't know. I mean, like the statistics are saying that he's winning these minutes on the feet. 47% striking accuracy, 1 knockdown in 7 fights, 62% striking defense. And that's exceptional because he's spending almost all of his fights on the feet. I mean, 22% of his fights in control time positions. So 78% of Hakeem Dawodu's fights are taking place on the feet. And this guy hasn't even gotten a takedown in the UFC yet. So, and then Trizano has only attempted 2 and gotten 1 of them. And one of them was against Luis Pena, and I wanted to actually see the 1 takedown. I wanted to see if Mike shot for it or how he got the takedown. And what it was Pena just kneed him in the face. And as soon as he got kneed, he kind of caught the leg and he just pushed it up and then put Pena on his back. He got on top of him, kind of let him right back up. So Trizano is not a guy who's looking for takedowns. Neither is Hakeem Dawodu. This fight should take place on the feet and on the cage. And when we see the numbers that we have here on the page, we are going to see that the minute winner should be Dawodu. But both of these guys land more significant strikes than they absorb. Both of these guys throw more significant strike attempts than their opponents do. Both of these guys have really nice striking defense numbers. It's been Dawodu who's actually been knocked down once in 215 significant strikes absorbed, while Trizano's never been knocked down. And then we mentioned the grappling stats. And then if we look at the ratios here, 3.67 for Trizano and 1.5 for Dawodu. So it's actually Trizano who's fighting the better competition. And beating the better ratio competition, Dawodu's beating guys that are a little more experienced. You guys, this is close. This is a close fight. Trizano is just an awfully tough out. And when you go back and you watch the tape on Dawodu, he's not winning rounds convincingly, in my opinion. And it just feels like Trizano is the kind of guy who can hang with him and who can keep it close. And when you watch Trizano fight, he's not losing minutes. He really isn't. His last two professional fights were against Southpaws, though, and Dawodu is an orthodox fighter. So we'll have to see what kind of changes he brings. But this is going to be slightly different for him. But, orthodox fighters are used to fighting orthodox fighters most of the time. Another interesting little angle here is that Hakeem Dawodu fought Arce, who's also a Tiger Schulman guy. So Trizano has got somebody in his camp who has a split decision loss over Hakeem Dawodu. And, you see this. Look at this. The last 3 out of the last 4 wins for Hakeem Dawodu in the UFC are split decision wins. And these guys are not world beaters. Tukugov didn't even fight in the third round of that fight. He just ran the entire third round. He thought he had won the first 2 rounds. First round was close. He definitely won the second. So he lost that one. Tukugov lost that split decision. That was completely his fault. Arce, a split decision, very close fight. Kyle Bochniak, split decision over Kyle Bochniak. So these guys who are really confident in Dawodu this week, who are laying juice on Dawodu, I just don't feel it, you guys. I'm picking Trizano to win this fight. Let me see here. Michael Trizano is plus 150. Michael Trizano by decision, which is my pick, is plus 320 right now out there, and that is what I'm looking at. That's juicy enough for me to think it might be worth a bet. Like I say, you guys, this is a close fight. This is a very close fight, and Trizano's taller. He kicks a lot more than Dawodu does, and I think he might be able to manage distance a little bit more here. And Dawodu does get hit with big shots from time to time. So I'm not comfortable laying minus 170, minus 180 on Hakeem Dawodu. The pick, you guys, is going to be Mike Trizano by decision here. Let's see. We are going to the next fight, which is going to be Chidi Bang Bang Njokuani fighting up against Marc Powerbore Barriault. We've got Barriault 2 years younger. It's going to be Chidi 2 inches taller and with a 6-inch reach advantage here. Very, very big reach advantage. We've got 10 more professional fights for Njokuani. So he's got a big reach advantage and he's got a big experience advantage here. Having about 50 more minutes in the pro cage, about 7 more years as a pro. And but it's Barriault who's fought at the UFC level, 6 fights at the UFC level, while Njokuani only has the 1 contender series fight. When we look at how these guys finish fights, 65% finish rate, 13 wins inside the distance for Chidi out of 20. And that is 12 of them by knockout, 1 of them by submission. He's definitely a knockout artist. And Barriault, 69% finish rate as a pro, all by knockout. So these guys, so that would be 26, 3.9, so 4. 9 out of Barriault's 13 wins by knockout, 12 of Njokuani's 20 wins by knockout. So of the finishes, 21 of 22 for these guys' finishes on the offensive end are knockouts. So, it's probably pretty fair to suggest that this is going to be a stand-up battle. Let's see. One other thing here, too, 4 professional losses for Barriault, and he has never been finished, while we have 7 losses here for Chidi, and he's been finished in 6 of them. So that when I see something like that, it leads me to believe if I'm on the Njokuani side, I want to play Njokuani by decision. If I'm on the Barriault side, I want to play him inside the distance. Not to mention, Marc-Andre Barriault has won 3 fights in the UFC. 2 of them have been inside the distance. He pissed hot for tainted supplements, did Barriault. And it was, it was known that it was tainted supplements, that he wasn't actually juicing. And that's what I remember hearing. I don't know if that's absolutely the case, but Marc-Andre Barriault had a win overturned over Pehota, and he's also knocked out Abu Azaitar, and that was a great fight. So I believe that instead of playing the time props on this fight, you could play the time props by using the decision prop for Njokuani if you're on that side of it, and you can use the inside the distance prop for Barriault if you're on that side of it. So we don't have much in the way of striking numbers for Njokuani, but what you'll see here is how dominant Njokuani was in his UFC debut here on the Contender Series, landing 5.61 significant strikes a minute, absorbing 1.12, showing 84% striking accuracy, landing a knockdown, and showing 71.74% striking defense. So, Chidi's hot right now. And Mark is doing great in his 6 fights. He's landing 5.8 and absorbing 4.94. 57% striking defense is respectable. 46% striking accuracy is respectable. 2 knockdowns and 492 significant strikes landed is respectable. And he has never been knocked down in 6 UFC fights. So the dude is very durable. Barriault has gotten 2 takedowns in 6 fights. Njokuani has gotten 0 in 1 fight. They've combined for 2 takedowns in 7 fights. Njokuani did get a ton of control time in that fight. His opponent tried 4 takedowns, got 1 of them, was able to control him for 6% of the fight. But I do think that this fight will be taking place on the feet. Barriault has been taken down 10 times in 6 fights, and he's been controlled for about 17 minutes on those 10 takedowns. So Barriault is a guy who can give up minutes on the ground and can lose minutes there. But Chidi is not exactly the kind of guy that has been known to go shooting for takedowns and to go grappling first. So I think that this is going to be a kickboxing match on the feet. And I think that Barriault is more experienced at the UFC level, but Chidi has been doing this a long time. I think this is going to be a very close fight. The bookies think this is going to be a very close fight. But I would say that the best 2 bets, depending on which side you're on, because I am not planting my flag either way here yet. But I just think that from the numbers, seeing Chidi lose inside the distance 6 to 7 times and seeing Barriault never be finished, that Chidi Njokuani by decision is a nice way to not just have to pay the evens. And Njokuani by decision is about plus 250 right now. And Barriault inside the distance is plus 300. So big plus money on both of those bets. I think that those are the 2 most likely ways that this fight finishes. And I'm going to pick Barriault. I'm a fan of his. I'm going to pick him to win it inside the distance by 3rd round knockout. That Barriault conditioning and durability and pressure that he puts on his opponents, he makes him a great 3rd round bet, in my opinion. What's that Barriault round 3 prop, by the way? Barriault wins in round 3 plus 1,200 is available now. When FanDuel comes out, I'm sure we'll get something a little bit better than that. But the pick is going to be Marc Barriault, 3rd round knockout for this one, you guys. Now, we get to the last 3 fights of the night. On my channel on Sunday night, I did a balls deep breakdown on Harris Rakhmonov. So if you want a longer look at that fight, check out that video. On Monday night, I did a balls deep breakdown channel on my channel for Soriano Maximov. Check that out if you want a better look at that fight. And on Monday afternoon, I did a main event breakdown on DFS by the Numbers channel for the Hermansson Strickland fight. So if you want a longer look at that one, the link to that is in the description of this video as well. But my favorite fight of the night, you guys, Shavkat the Nomad Rakhmonov squaring off against the fighting pride of Guyana, Carlston Harris. It's going to be Harris, who's 7 years older here. He's 34 to Shavkat's 27. Shavkat 1 inch taller and a 1 inch reach advantage. This fight will settle once and for all, which is the toughest fighting nation on the planet. It's either Kazakhstan or Guyana, gentlemen. 21 professional fights for Carlston Harris, 14 for Rakhmonov. Rakhmonov 14-0 with 14 finishes. This guy is the hottest of hot prospects in the welterweight division. And Carlston Harris, bit of a journeyman with the 17-4 record, but he was the Brave welterweight champion prior to getting into the UFC. And then he had a big win over Saigid Isgakmaev in UAE Warriors, while Dana White and Khabib Nurmagomedov looked on. And Carlston Harris won that fight, cutting 17 kilos in less than 2 days, because he took that fight on 2 days' notice against the 17-1 Isgakmaev and beat him in the second round with a Darce choke. You guys, it was an impressive performance against a top-notch prospect who was supposed to be in the UFC already. So this guy, Carlston Harris, can be a prospect buster. And somebody that is known as a prospect is Shavkat here. So Carlston has more experience, 7 more pro fights, 20 more minutes of professional cage time. Both of these guys have 2 UFC fights, and both of these guys have been getting their work done quickly. They fight like they're double parked. 100% finish rate for Rakhmonov, 7 wins by knockout, 7 wins by submission. Carlston Harris has finished 58% of his wins inside the distance. That's 10 of 17, 5 by submission, 5 by knockout, and then 7 by decision. So, these guys are both equal opportunity finishers. They can win by submission. They can win by knockout. For Carlston Harris, what you really have to watch out for are the front chokes. The Bravo, the Anaconda, and the Darce. The guy's got freakishly long arms, and he can lock them up from either side. He's very dangerous with those. And he also has quite a bit of power standing up. He does have a boxing background and a lucha libre background. For Shavkat, he's got a sambo background. His striking is very good at distance. His guillotine is next level, and he has finished a lot of people with that guillotine. And Shavkat's ground and pound is savage, absolutely savage. We'll see another guy on the card in Jack Hermansson in the main event who has some of the best ground and pound in any division in this sport. But Shavkat is right up there, top 5. With that ground and pound that dude has, you really don't want to be on your back with that dude over you, because he will finish the fight. That's how he's finished a lot of his knockouts. He doesn't get them standing up for the most part. He definitely gets them on the ground with the ground and pound. So not much of a sample size here, you guys, but we'll see how dominant these guys have been. Carlston landing 5.27 and only absorbing 1.27 plus 4 significant strike differential. Shavkat only absorbs 1.27 and he lands 2.87. Carlston has landed a knockdown in only 29 significant strikes landed. And he's showing 75 or 77% striking defense. And then the grappling numbers, it looks like Rakhmonov's fights have been taking place in control time positions over 60% of the time. And for Harris, it's less than a third of the time. Harris hasn't gotten any of his takedowns, and both of these guys have shown 100% takedown defense thus far. The fights, it's definitely Rakhmonov that's got the better level of competition in the UFC. However, outside of the UFC, Carlston Harris has fought just as good, if not better, of competition than Shavkat has. But Shavkat, I mean, like, he came in at 19 years old, you guys, and he was already fighting in ACA and Battle of the Nomads, and he didn't have any easy fights. This guy is not somebody who came in with a padded record by any stretch of the imagination. He has a win over the current EFC middleweight champion, Fardun Odilov. He has a win over the Iron Turtle, Jun Young Park, who's a middleweight. Shavkat and Carlston Harris are absolutely legit, guys. If you want to find an in-depth breakdown of this video. Like I say, I did a balls deep breakdown of this fight. I am picking Shavkat Rakhmonov to win this fight by decision. I think it'll be his first decision win. However, I think I'm going to be betting Carlston Harris. He's just too dangerous. He's too well-rounded. He's fought too good a competition, and he's too hot right now for me to think that Shavkat's going to go through him like he went through guys in Oliveira and Prazeres. With all due respect, probably have had one foot out the door for a very long time now. So even though Rakhmonov, his UFC wins are so much more impressive than Carlston Harris's wins, I think when you look over the entire body of work for both guys, you'll see that Carlston has indeed fought tougher competition over the long run. I think he is on Shavkat's level striking, and I think he is on Shavkat's level grappling. He's just 7 years older. Shavkat is a little bit longer, a little bit taller, a lot younger, and 14-0 instead of 17-4. So I see why Shavkat is favored. I think he's going to win this fight, but the bet, you guys, is going to be Carlston Harris by decision. And the reason I'm going to pick him to win by decision is I think he can win minutes on the cage here. Shavkat has shown that he can be put up against the cage and held there for long periods of time, and I don't like that. He's also been rocked. And even though Carlston Harris has been rocked too, I just don't feel comfortable laying the kind of money you have to lay on Shavkat right now, because Carlston Harris is just far too dangerous. Minus 250, minus 235, minus 230 is what you have to pay for Shavkat Rakhmonov right now. I think the value is on Carlston Harris. And Carlston Harris by decision, I think, is a cheeky bet at plus 700 on DraftKings, you guys. When you're 14-0 as a professional like Shavkat is, this is going to be his 15th fight, and he's never, ever, ever won a decision. And when you watch him fight, he's not dominating every minute of every fight. His fights are back and forth, but what Shavkat is very good at doing is at winning moments, either landing a big strike, defensively jumping for a guillotine, or shooting for a takedown and getting on top. When he does any of those things, he has the chance to finish the fight, either with a ground and pound, with a standing strike, or with a guillotine. If Carlston cannot get knocked down, if he cannot get guillotined, if he cannot wind up under Shavkat getting ground and pounded over a 15-minute period, I think Carlston Harris's conditioning will be better. I think his striking will be slightly better and slightly more powerful and awkward, more likely to land a big shot. I just think that Shavkat is going to be dangerous in those moments when he looks to finish the fight. And if Carlston can avoid being finished, I think plus 700 is a nice look. Carlston Harris by decision will be the bet for this fight for me, you guys, because Shavkat has shown great toughness and no quit. You don't get to 14-0 by accident. He is not a flash in the pan, but I think he might get a vet lesson on Saturday from one Carlston Harris, the fighting pride of Guyana. Guyana, stand up. You guys, we got two more fights here. Punahele Soriano versus Nick Maximov. I also broke down this fight on my channel, went in depth on it. So check out the balls deep breakdown on this one. But Nick Maximov, 5 years younger, 1 inch taller, and a 4-inch reach advantage. Both of these guys are southpaw. You don't see a southpaw versus southpaw matchup very often, so that could be very interesting here. The experience advantage for Soriano is there, but it's not as much as you might think. He's only got 2 more professional fights than Nick Maximov. And Nick Maximov has been very active on the grappling circuit as well, while fighting as an MMA fighter as well. Puna has got 9 fights in 4 years, 11 months, but we just haven't seen too much of him lately. It's Puna who has the UFC experience advantage as well, having 8 more minutes in the cage and 2 more fights. And he's fought the much better brand of competition in the UFC cage as well compared to Maximov. 88% finish rate for Puna. He's finished 7 of his 8 wins inside the distance. and he's never been finished. Nick Maximov has never lost, never been finished, and he's finished 72% of his 7 wins inside the distance. That is 5 of 7 wins, 3 by submission, 2 by knockout. Nick Maximov loves his triangles. He gets the triangle from top position. He will work it there, roll to his back to finish it. He's got great wrestling. He chains his takedown attempts together. He'll keep going for them even if he does miss them. And Punahele Soriano has crazy power in his left hand, you guys. He has got he's got a coconut palm, as I was saying on Stat Diggers, and I know that's Maki Patolo's nickname, but Punahele Soriano, hailing from Hawaii, has got that Hawaiian power. He's got that Hawaiian strength and toughness, and when he hits, it absolutely hurts. You guys, this is going to be striker versus grappler, and I understand Punahele Soriano has a great wrestling background, a judo background, but Nick Maximov is the grappler here, you guys. If Puna wants to be successful in this fight, he needs to keep it standing. If Nick wants to be successful in this fight, he's going to need to wrestle, test Punahele Soriano's takedown defense, test his conditioning, and test his gas tank. The reason I'm not willing to bet Soriano here, despite the fact that I've loved what I've seen out of his offensive grappling, I've loved what I've seen about how strong he is. He's only stuffed 1 takedown attempt in the UFC in 4 fights, and he's given up less than 1% of control time in his UFC career in 4 fights. So that's very impressive. And Nick Maximov, though, is the complete opposite of that. 68.61% control time over 2 UFC fights. One of them against a heavyweight in Oscar Cota, who he got over 10 minutes of control time against. So this guy is absolutely able to run a wrestling heavy game plan and work it for the full 15. If he's tired, you're going to be even more tired. Something's got to break here, though, you guys. And I gave this stat on Stat Diggers. I'm going to give it again here tonight because it's so important. Nick Maximov has 2 fights in the UFC. He has 20 takedown attempts in those 2 fights. But let's keep one thing in mind. He's spent 68.61% of his time in control time positions. And he's been controlled for 17.89% of his control time positions. Guess what? When you're on your back being controlled, you can't get a takedown. You can't even shoot for one. When you're on top controlling your opponent, you can't get a takedown because you already got one. You're already controlling your opponent. So let's take that 68% control time for and that 17.89% control time against, and let's remove that from Nick Maximov's total cage time. That is 85%. 85% of 30 is 15% is 4.5. So that means 4.5 minutes of Nick Maximov's UFC career, he's been standing at striking range. In those 4.5 minutes that he's had the canvas underneath his feet, he's attempted 20 takedowns. Let me repeat that. 4.5 minutes standing. In those 4.5 minutes standing, that's 270 seconds. He's attempted 20 takedowns. 1 every 13.5 seconds. So Punahele Soriano in 38 minutes has faced 1 takedown attempt. It's going to be a completely different fight than what you're used to seeing Puna fight in the UFC. And the other thing about Puna, you guys, here's what we have to look at. Punahele Soriano has 7 of his 8 wins inside the distance, right? Of those 7 wins, every single one of them is in the first round. Todorovic, 448, round 1. Pahota, 317, round 1. The Pickett fight was a unanimous decision, but Pickett's stupid tough. Patti, 336, round 1. Horn, 45 seconds, round 1. Celestino, 31 seconds, round 1. Gover, 236, round 1. Farrell, 220, round 1, you guys. So maybe if you're on the Punahele Soriano side and you think he stops a couple of takedowns from Maximov and is able to completely shut Maximov out in the wrestling, then maybe a first-round knockout bet for Soriano would be the best way to play it. Maximov does not have impressive wins going into the UFC. I highlighted this on the Balls Deep breakdown. He's got a win over Nick Paikuch. Paikuch, great name, right? You just want to say it over and over again. Paikuch. But yeah, 0-3 Nick Paikuch. 1-0 Bruno Casillas. 0-0 William Hope, who has a haircut like Butters on South Park and looks like he got taken out from underneath a bridge somewhere and was told, we'll give you a ham sandwich if you fight Nick Maximov. That's only high country William Hope's. That's his only professional fight. And I don't know if he looked like that before or after, because if he looked that stupid after getting his ass whooped by Maximov, we can forgive him. Robert Allensworth, 1-10, you guys. Yeah. Johnny James Jr., 1-1. But this fight, you guys, the Johnny James Jr. fight is a great fight to watch because it shows how Nick Maximov goes about his business. He gets 5 takedowns on James in the first round, and he gets 3 takedowns on James in the second round. Every one of those takedown attempts gets a little bit easier as the fight goes on. And every time he gets him down, he holds him down just a little bit longer. And James starts to accept bottom position for just a little bit longer and a little bit easier. Maximov just wore on him. And, you know, James kept getting up. James was strong. James kept working, kept getting back up to his feet. But Maximov never abandoned the game plan, and eventually he just broke him. And if you look at the way Johnny James Jr. is built, it's a lot like Punahele Soriano is built. So, but the point, you guys, is that Nick Maximov hasn't beaten anyone yet. So there is a good reason why Puna's a big favorite here. I believe he's sitting around -200. Yep, -185. A little bit of money. You could have got Maximov earlier in the week at +170. Now the best you can do if you don't have BetMGM is +160. But I still think it's a fair price. Like I said, this is going to be an interesting matchup for Soriano because he's only faced 1 takedown attempt in 4 UFC fights. And if you watch the regional scene footage of him, I don't even know if I saw him face 1 takedown attempt in any of those fights. So we don't know what Soriano is going to have for Maximov. But this fight has been announced for a while. You know, Soriano's training over at Extreme Couture. Those guys have got great coaches, great game plans, great facilities, great training partners. You know that Puna is going to be training that wrestling. And he was a Hawaii state champion. He was a college All-American in wrestling. And he was a state champion judoka in Hawaii as well. But the problem is that, you know, if he does get taken down, judokas aren't great off their back. And wrestlers are even worse off their back. So we could see Maximov have a lot of success if he drags Puna into that deep water, goes to the wrestling over and over again, and actually has some success with it. So as a result, you know, I am going to pick Nick Maximov to win this fight, and I'm going to pick him to win it. I think I'm going to pick him to win it actually inside the distance. I think he's going to break him, you guys. But the problem is that Maximov has good ground and pound. He's got great submissions, and he can just ride out minutes too. So I don't really want to pick how Maximov does this. It's another reason that I like him because I feel like he could get a decision. I feel like he could get a submission, and I feel like he could get a ground and pound finish against Soriano if the wrestling works. So the bet is just going to be the Nick Maximov money line at +160, and I'm going to pick him to upset Punahele Soriano. And that brings us to the main event. And as I mentioned before, the link to the DFS by the Numbers channel where we did the main event breakdown on Monday afternoon is in the description of this video. Check that out if you want a longer look at it. But here we go, you guys. Sean Strickland against Jack the Joker Hermansson. Strickland, 3 years younger than Hermansson. Same height, 1-inch reach advantage for Hermansson. Hermansson, born in Sweden, fights out of Oslo, Norway at Frontline Academy, and it's sequence jiu-jitsu for Sean Strickland, but he kind of trains all over Las Vegas and California, from what I understand. When we look at the experience numbers, very similar here. Excuse me. One more professional fight for Hermansson, about 10 more minutes in the pro cage for Hermansson. Both of these guys have careers that are around 12 years long, but Strickland's been doing this for about 2 more years than the Joker has. And they've got a similar amount of UFC fights as well. It's Strickland with 1 more UFC fight and about 60 more minutes in the UFC cage. 13-minute average fight time, while for Hermansson it's 9.4. Hermansson, a 77% finish rate as a pro in 22 wins. And for Strickland, it's a 59% finish rate in 24 wins. And in their 9 combined losses, 4 of them have come inside the distance. Jack has been subbed twice, knocked out twice, and decisioned twice, while Sean Strickland in his 3 professional losses has been knocked out once, and he's been decisioned twice. When we look at the striking numbers here, I kind of look at this as a striker versus grappler matchup, even though both guys are very well-rounded. I feel like if this fight stays standing the whole time, Sean Strickland's going to win a ton of minutes and cruise to a decision here. If Jack Hermansson can grapple and have some success with the wrestling and get on top, I think he can win moments of this fight and really put Strickland in some bad spots. I mean, the one thing that we've seen from Jack Hermansson in his UFC tenure is when this guy gets the fight to the ground, he's very, very dangerous there. He's not afraid to go to the ground with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champions like Jacare Souza and Thales Leites. He's submitting guys like Gerald Meerschaert. This guy is he's submitting Kelvin Gastelum. When he wrestles and he gets on top, he's absolutely at his best. So looking at the striking numbers here, both of these guys putting up some really impressive numbers. Hermansson lands 4.86 and absorbs only 3.36 for a positive 1.5 significant strike differential, 45% striking accuracy. He's never landed a knockdown, and he's showing about 55% striking defense. He's been knocked down 3 times in 13 UFC fights, 0.37 knockdowns allowed per 15 minutes. Strickland is landing almost 2 more significant strikes per minute than he absorbs. He lands 5.45, absorbs 3.73, 40% striking accuracy, a 0.4% knockdowns for total significant strikes landed, and he's averaging 1/3 of a knockdown per 15 minutes. And he's only been knocked down once in 680 significant strikes absorbed in 14 UFC fights. And then look at this number, you guys. 66.68% striking defense for Sean Strickland. And this was really important to look at, in my opinion, as well. I'm going to take you over to the advanced stats tab here. And here we can go fight by fight for every fighter on the card. So here I've got Sean Strickland stats. And I just want to highlight the last 4 fights here. Uriah Hall, Christoph Jotko, Brendan Allen, and Jack Marshman. These are the 4 fights that he's had in the middleweight division. Everything before that was as a welterweight. He fought Nordine Taleb October of 2018, then was in a very bad I shouldn't have clicked that. Very bad motorcycle accident and took 2 years off and then returned as a middleweight. And since then, he's been 4-0, right? Let's look at his striking defense as a middleweight, right? So if we add up these 4 numbers, the sum is 243. So I'll take 243 divided by this number, which is 796. So that's 0.3. That's his opponent's striking accuracy. So if we take that and we multiply it by -1 and then add it to 1, we're going to get a number here that's 69.47. Sean Strickland as a middleweight has shown 70% striking defense in 4 fights. 70% striking defense. And I want to also mention that in these fights, he's given up not 1 second of control time. So all those strikes are distance strikes. And at distance, Sean Strickland's opponents are only landing 3 out of 10 significant strike attempts. So when you watch Strickland on tape too, he's so defensively responsible with his feet and his shoulders. He will move back in a straight line, but he's always hiding his chin behind his shoulders, whichever way the punches are coming from. So his footwork and his ability to keep his chin not up in the air, but down when he's in a defensive position behind his shoulders has really allowed him to not absorb any damage from his opponents. And then the constant pressure that he brings as well is a problem because it's hard for his opponents to get a takedown off the back foot. And in addition to that, it's hard for them to throw power strikes. So Sean has just done very well as a middleweight. He's been almost a pure boxer here. If Hermansson allows him to box for the duration of the fight, I just think that, this is going to be an easy 5 rounds to nothing Sean Strickland decision. Jack Hermansson's crazy tough, you guys. He's hard to finish. You go watch that Tallis latest fight. He breaks his rib in the first round, gets mauled in the second round, and then finds a way to get a reversal in the third round, get on top. And even with the broken rib, exhausted, in tons of pain, he rains down ground and pound like a gorilla and finishes Tallis latest. You guys, this guy has got no quit in him. He has been stopped, but the guys who have stopped him, let's see here. This is the people who have stopped him are these people here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it was Cesar Ferreira by arm triangle, Thiago Santos with no time left in the first, Jared Cannonier and Marvin Vittori were the 4 people to beat him in the UFC, and 3 of those guys finished him, twice by knockout, once by submission. So, he hasn't been submitted since the year 2016. It's 2022 now. So Jack Hermansson's going to be a tough out, but the thing is, he doesn't really win striking battles with great strikers. So he's going to need to get this fight to the ground in order to be effective. And Sean Strickland has shown some pretty good takedown defense here in the UFC. 82% strike takedown defense, 7 of 39 are his opponents on takedown attempts. And Sean, when he wants to get takedowns, he can absolutely do that, getting them at a 61.5% clip. But, Sean's been really good at keeping fights on the feet. His fights are taking place at striking distance about 78% of the time. And even when we go back here to the advanced stats, you can see that this guy is fighting some great grapplers like Alex Garcia, Kamaru Usman, Court McGee, even Luke Barnett had some great work on the ground. Brennan Allen's great on the ground, but was afraid to try to take him down. But, guys like Court McGee, Kamaru Usman, Alex Garcia, you could see how they did on takedowns against Strickland. 0 for 11, 2 for 8, and 3 for 7. So those 3 fantastic grapplers were 5 of 26 on takedown attempts. But I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that in the last 4 fights, Sean Strickland has only had 1 takedown attempt against him. So you got to believe that Jack is going to be more active with his offensive grappling than Sean's last 4 opponents, and that this might be a slightly different challenge than what Sean has seen in the past. But I've seen enough of Sean Strickland. I like the way he pressures on the feet. I love his striking defense. I love those straight punches that come right down the pipe and are super accurate and they hurt. And he's a very good grappler in his own right. Sean Strickland is extremely well-rounded. So I believe that he's that much better than Jack Hermansson on the feet, and that it's close enough on the ground to make me pretty confident that Sean Strickland is going to win this fight, you guys, by decision. That is going to be my pick, and I will be looking at a Sean Strickland by decision bet here, and that right now is sitting at plus 180, plus 195 on FanDuel, and that is not a bad look. That is the way I'm going to play this fight. That's the last pick of the day. Sean Strickland in the main event of UFC Vegas 47, winning by decision. That leaves us, you guys, with one more order of business here. Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. We've got 13 fights to choose from. And you guys already know who I've picked. Will it be Sean Strickland? Will it be Nick Maximov? Will it be Carlston Harris or Shavkat Rakhmonov? Both of whom I like. The bet is Harris, but the pick is Rakhmonov. Is it going to be Njokuani Barrett? I can't even pick who's going to win that fight, so I'm not picking any of these guys to shave ass. Like Trizano to pull off the upset here by decision, but I can't pick him to shave ass. Alvey Allen. Am I going to pick Brendan Allen to shave ass on less than a week's notice when I can't count on him to grapple? I think he's going to win this fight, but shave ass, no. Can't do it either with this one because I haven't seen enough of either of these guys. Erosa Peterson, nah, man. I think Erosa probably does win this fight, but it's going to be very close, and I think Steven Peterson is very live here. Johns Castaneda, nah, man. I can't go with Miles Johns, although I think he has the chance to end this fight violently. Castaneda, super tough, doesn't get knocked out. So it's tough. Not touching this one with a 10-foot pole, you guys. Stoliarenko Davis, no thank you. But now we arrive to Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. You guys, it's got to be Jailton Almeida here. This guy finishes all of his professional wins inside the distance. All of those professional wins coming in within the first round and a half. Danilo Marques has quit in the past. He's been knocked out by bums. I'm not even sure how he got here in the first place. And he stacked up two of the worst wins that you could stack up in this division with Hadis Ibragimov and Mike Rodriguez, Slow Mike. So I'm not sure what Danilo's doing here, but I know what Jailton Almeida is doing here. And he's coming here to shave some ass. Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. I'm 0-3 this year, you guys. 0-3. That stops this week. You guys might call me a coward for picking the biggest favorite on the card, but it stops this week. This week, Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week is bringing a razor and shaving cream into the cage, and it's going to be poor 37-year-old Danilo Marques that's going to be on the wrong end of it. You guys, we did it. Just under 2 hours here on a Tuesday night. You guys are absolute studs for staying up with me until midnight Central Time to take in all this information. I owe a huge debt of gratitude to everybody that donated to the show today. Thank you so much for the donations. Thank you so much for all your support and love, for everybody that subscribed to the channel, to everybody that hits that thumbs up button, to everybody that sends me kind words on Twitter or here on YouTube, here in the chat. I appreciate all you guys for hanging out with me on a Tuesday night. God bless each and every one of you, and let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 47. Have a great night, everybody. I will be back tomorrow on Pub Sports Radio, 6 p.m. Central Time for the DFS DraftKings show for MMA that we do. And then tomorrow night right here, 10 o'clock Central Time for the last Balls Deep breakdown of the week. You guys reach out to me on Twitter at MMA Weezy and let me know what fight you want me to break down. It will not be Stoliarenko Davis. You guys have a great night. Sleep well, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow.